Out on the road, it feels like a truck, actually. The ride's pretty jiggly. You can hear a lot of wind noise as it's bashing into this almost square design. And you can hear the turbo whistling in the background. At low speeds, you can hear it through the snorkel there, which is actually pretty cool. But yeah, this is not a, modern crossover or SUV. This has a live axle suspension setup, front and rear. It's got diff locks. It's meant for off-roading and crossing deserts. But the handling is not actually too bad for what it is. You can't expect it to be handling any better than this, considering it has big all-terrain tires and the live axle suspension. But turning in here, it feels normal. It feels, it doesn't feel like I'm going to roll over. It is affected by crosswinds though, and if you're overtaking a truck, for example, at higher speed, it will get pushed around in the lane. But the actual handling itself, the way the body remains pretty flat. There's not too much body roll. It's more tire fold than body roll. It's not too bad. The steering on center definitely has some play, which is good for off-roading. You don't want something that's really sensitive when you're off-road, because you want to be, making little adjustments without having a major adjustment down there. So I understand that that's what that setup's for. It just means when you're turning around twisty bends like this, you've just got to account for that play around center and make sure that you're already touching the end of that play. But this engine, I quite like it. I know a lot of the traditionalists are going to miss the V8. It's probably better for towing, having a larger rotating mass. But this engine, it's very smooth. With the automatic, you're only requiring about 2,000 RPM to maintain 110 or even 120 kilometers an hour. We're in 5th at the moment, and it's going 90 at 2,000 RPM, but if I upshift to 6, that drops the revs down even further. Yeah, it's much quieter and smoother than the rough V8 as well, which, will help when you're doing long distance touring. You're less likely to become fatigued just because of the noise. This engine does make a bit more noise, I've noticed, compared with other Toyota products where this engine's found, probably because there's less insulation around the engine bay and around the cabin. When you're cruising along, it's fine. Just when you're revving at very low RPM, and when it's cold especially, it definitely has some clattering going on, and there's a big fan noise a lot of the time too. The cooling fan makes a bit of a rough, so not a rough, it's like a whining, whooshing sound. Even after all that though, I love it. I don't know why, but it just puts a smile on my face. I like that it's old school. The only thing that I don't like about it is the price. It really shouldn't be, $80,000 or $90,000 for this. It's not like it has any new technology. It's not like Toyota has to make, a whole new facility at its production factories just to make this. It's been making it for decades, literally. So it's not anything new. There's no reason to charge this much. It should be about 45 grand, I reckon, or 50 grand, $10,000, $20,000 more than a Suzuki Jimny, because that's what it is. It's just a bigger Suzuki Jimny. Although you could argue the Suzuki Jimny is a smaller version of this. Either way, there's very basic principle here. It's just live axle, ladder frame chassis. There's nothing to it really. It doesn't even have climate control, heated seats or anything like that. It does have low range, of course, and front and rear diff locks. So the whole purpose of the new engine is for efficiency, and I'm averaging 10.3 litres per 100 kilometers at the moment. I think in the V8 I've averaged about 11 or 12. Actually no, it's a bit higher than that, isn't it? It's about 13 or 14 the last time I drove the V8 one. So you're saving quite a lot of fuel there, and that helps with the overall range as well. Performance is just as good. It's actually better than the V8. According to my V-Box, this is much quicker than the V8. The automatic helps there too, because the manual in the V8, long throw gear stick, it takes a while to change the gears. But this has more torque and about the same power, slightly less power I think, about 3 kilowatts less power, but a lot more torque. So that's what really helps. In the city, the sheer number of rotations required from the steering does make it more cumbersome than a conventional crossover or SUV. But this 4-cylinder with the automatic does make it more livable compared with the V8. With the V8, if I was in this sort of scenario, it'd be stopping and starting, big clunky transmission gear lever, short ratio first gear, so it's it makes it much more cumbersome to drive, whereas this, once you get past the steering, you can just accelerate and zip around like you would in something much sort of smaller or more conventional. It is still a very large vehicle, very long, so you've got to be careful, particularly when parking and things, and the front end does stick right out, and then you've got that big bumper bar protruding out even further, so you've just got to be mindful of that. But yeah, you could live with this in the city if you really wanted to, although that's not what this vehicle is about. It's about being in the bush and being able to get where you need to go no matter what. All right, let's head out now to the private road and do some performance testing.